Petrobras is an interesting but unusual company, at least from Western perspective. So let's analyze this biggest Brazilian oil and gas company, value it and see, is it an unexpected investment possibility or just a company we should avoid? So what do I mean when I say Petrobras is unusual? So first of all, the fact that the government has the majority of voting rights and therefore can easily influence its decisions. Secondly, that after every election, the whole management and board of directors changes, so those people are not there because they are specialists, but because they support a certain political group. And the last thing is that in the recent financial results, we can read that one of the main achievements of the company is that it paid a lot of taxes to give back to society. Now, it may be good for the society, but it is a warning sign for investors. So let's take a look at the recent results. Revenue is down by 1.5% year over year. Income is down by 14.8% year over year. Cash went up in the last quarter by 28.7%, so that is quite impressive, and debt went down by 0.4% in the same time. Those results are far too little to understand where this company is at. So let's take a look at the big picture. Individual insiders, that is an X with 0% of the company owned by individual insiders. And like I said before, almost all of the management and board of directors are in the company for less than a year. So basically, after the presidential elections, everybody got fired and trusted people got some well-paid positions. Now, that usually is not the best scenario for a company. So, of course, individual insiders are not buying. And are there any super investors that own this company? That is a check with one super investor, and it is no other than Howard Marks of Oak Tree Capital Management. And this investment makes almost 1.1% of his portfolio, so it is not anything huge, but he made a lot of smaller investments as well. And is he buying right now? That is a check. In Q1 2023, Howard Marks bought over 350,000 shares of Petrobras, adding 4.6% to his position. Return on invested capital, that is an X at 2.4% 10-year median returns. We usually can use this metric to assess the management, but in this case, the management changes after every election, so past results are not very helpful. And free cash flow growth? That is a check at 34.8% 10-year compound annual growth rate. So this result is extremely impressive. And what do we know about net profit margin? It is a check at 29.4%. And when we look at its competitors, we see that BP has a net profit margin of 10.6%, Shell 11.4%, and when we compare it to the two companies that Warren Buffett owns a part of, Chevron has a net profit margin of 15.3%, but Occidental Petroleum has an incredible margin of 36.3%. So Petrobras has a surprisingly strong position on the market. And now let's take a look at share buyback. It is an X, but it is also a check. Basically, we see no changes in the amount of shares outstanding in the last 10 years. And that is pretty unusual. And what do we know about the debt? It is a check. It would take just over a year to pay the debt with a 5-year average free cash flow. If we would compare it to the current free cash flow, it would be almost twice as fast. So they have the debt under control. The dividend yield is 57.9%, but it is very unpredictable. Last year the dividend was $6.44 per share, but they pay dividends based on their cash flow, so it changes every quarter. And they announced that they will most probably change their dividend policy, or as they named it, they will improve it in the near future. And we really don't know what that can mean. And what do we know about the payout ratio? It is an X at 112%. But again, it changes all the time, so it is really hard to predict anything with this company's dividend. And what about the dividend growth? It is an X. It is not a stable annual or quarterly dividend, so we can't see any growth. We will have to estimate a growth of Petrobras for the next 10 years, and we will make 3 scenarios of this growth. So, in the low scenario, we will estimate a decline of 5% and then a decline of 10%. In the medium, a decline of 3% for the first 5 years and then no growth. And in the high scenario, no growth and then 2% growth. The main reason for such conservative estimates is the fact that it is still uncertain how well this company will do in the future, since Brazil's economy and political situation remains unstable. So I prefer to take the conservative approach. And with such estimates, the intrinsic value in the low scenario is $20, in the medium $30, and in the high scenario $36. But we have to always add a margin of safety to those prices. I use a 30% one, and such a margin gives me enough room for mistakes. I can be wrong with my estimates and still not get myself in any serious trouble. So, with such a margin we get, in the low scenario, $14, in the medium, $21, and in the high one, $25. And the current price is around $11. So it is all in the green. This company seems very cheap. So most probably the uncertainty of its situation and its future is already priced in. So we have here a fairly healthy company that is doing okay even with a lot of changes to the management, that is paying an unpredictable dividend, and that is very well priced. But we also know that the government can change things around at any moment. So if you know more about the political situation in Brazil, then you may use it to your advantage and see if this is an interesting opportunity or is it just a risky bet. The amount of unknowns and questions that I just don't know the answer to is so big that it is a pass for me even at those prices. But tell me in the comments what is your view on Petrobras and in general on other companies that are controlled by governments. Do you consider them as investments just like you would any other company, or do you try to stay away from them? Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.